30 amp service. That can be identified by the main breaker at the very top, which is actually a 30 amp breaker. Now, that power comes in from the power cord that attaches to the park post, okay? So the Rockwood actually attaches through a separate power cord. It's not a cable that pulls out of the side of the hatch. It's a power cord that actually attaches to the side of the trailer through a twist lock connection. Very common in the marine industry and, you know, in other electrical fields. So that power cord attaches to the side of the trailer, then attaches to the park post with a 30 amp plug. It's not like our normal household outlets. It's a different outlet altogether. That power then comes into the trailer, goes through this distribution panel. Now, once it comes into the distribution panel, it sends it out automatically to everything that requires it. Those 3 items that typically need it and will not operate without it will be your microwave, your air conditioner, and any outlets that you have. 3 items that require you to have 110, otherwise they will not work. We do have a very good deep cycle 12 volt battery on board for you, but the battery will not operate microwave, air conditioner outlets. Now, if we take a look at the breaker system down here, we have microwave, we have a refrigerator, we have microwave as I've indicated, air conditioner, converter, and water heater. So there's a couple other breakers on that panel over and above microwave, air conditioner outlets. What are they? Refrigerator, water heater, converter. Let's talk about the refrigerator. The refrigerator for a second here, it can actually use 110 or it can use propane. Understand the control is actually 12 volt.
Okay.
The brain is 12 volt. We can actually use 110 or propane to actually make it work, but the brain is 12 volt. We'll talk about where that comes from in a second. So, but we can actually use 110 on the refrigerator to make it cold. So thus it has its own breaker. Similar to the water heater, we can actually have the water heater work off of propane, similar to at home with natural gas, or in this case we can have propane or electricity, so it has a breaker of its own. The next thing is a breaker for the converter. What does a converter do? The converter takes some of that 110 and converts it down to 12. So when we're actually plugged in, the 110 is being automatically supplied, 12 volts being automatically made from the converter, and then it actually sends a charge line to the battery. So everything works when you're plugged in. You do not want for anything. I do suggest 30 amp plug-in if you're going to a campsite. Ask for 30 amp because there is a significant number of items on board that can use 110. Of course, we have a number of outlets. We have a refrigerator, we have a microwave, we have air conditioner, we have a hot water heater, and anything that we plug in. So there's a decent number of items that can use 110. So I do recommend 30 amp service. Now that being said, if we get to a park or we get somewhere or even at home, typically at home we don't have a 30 amp service. We have a 15 amp plug that we would normally, just like a kitchen outlet or a garage outlet. That's going to restrict what you can actually run. If you understand that basically every little bit of piece of equipment needs a certain amount of power, that all adds up, right? And if we plug this thing into a 15 amp receptacle, then we're actually going to be restricting what we can actually run on the trailer. So understand the air conditioner has a 20 amp breaker of its own, so really by you plugging it into a 15 amp receptacle at home, probably not. But that's not being said that it can't work. You can always plug it in. If you trip the breaker at the house, then you know you can't run it, right? So, but it still allows, even if you plug it into a 15 amp receptacle, it still allows all the lights to work from the converter. It still allows probably the microwave to work, and it still allows, you know, the battery to be charged through the converter. So it's still quite functioning, but it's not functioning to the optimal level. Okay, so power comes in automatically distributed, makes 12 volt, automatically distributed, sends a charge line to the battery. Life's good. You're fine. Okay, so that's the way the system works. We talked about the 110 being a little bit limited if you're on only a 15 amp site or a 15 amp outlet. The other thing to keep in mind is that we're going to have a GFI outlet somewhere in the trailer. A GFI outlet typically is a ground fault interrupter, right? Yeah. Now they have test and reset buttons on them. We do not have one in the bathroom, but there's actually a little tag on that. Okay, there's a little sticker on that one. You'll probably have the GFI receptacle right here at the end of the counter. Okay, Morgan, you may want to take a shot of that. The GFI receptacle actually has the test and reset button right on it. Okay. Now, what happens there is that one receptacle protects numerous receptacles in the trailer. The reason is that we have a small environment and there's a lot of water. So even the receptacle on the outside is also protected by the GFI that's here. The reason I bring it to your attention is that if you do plug something in, like you've got a vacuum cleaner, you plug it in and there's no power, double check your GFI first, okay? Rather than going to the panel. because some of these pieces of equipment that we plug in, like an old vacuum cleaner or an oscillating fan, they could potentially actually trip the GFI. Yes, Carl?
Yes, I'm going to have this...
Put that tent end up. Give me 1 second. We'll do that.
Okay.